Hello team. So in today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how to call Gemini using responsible AI principles. So what we are going to do is we are going to use this system and detect if there are some harmful content which are generated by us. So for example, these are the two API endpoints which I have deployed in Cloud Run function. So if you see one API endpoint is help, which if I call it, it will just give me a status that it is running securely. And again, I'm just passing a bearer token, a simple bearer token. The other one, which is much more complex, actually summarizes a text. So I have a text which I'm just summarizing, and the endpoint is summarize. So, it is able to summarize as such this particular text. But suppose if I copy something which is not intended to be safe. For example, let me try to put this across here. So I'm going to paste it here, and if you see, this discusses about some violence, so it's essentially a harmful content. So if I'm going to summarize it, it is going to give me that it is not able to summarize it well because there was some content moderation which is required, and that exactly what happened. So it was able to detect whether it has a harmful speech or not. So today we are going to see it how to use this and how to detect harmful content or any sort of content which should not be there, and see how we can detect and take some steps. So let's get started. So here is the setup. So I have a Docker file installed. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to install a dev container which contains a Linux, and I'm using Debian. So I have the prerequisite of every setting that I required here. So essentially a Linux for my dev environment. And again, I have more boilerplate code which tries to install few things like Google Cloud CLI and other libraries, for example, FastAPI, Vellox, Google Gemini, and so on. So basically, what I have done is I have done all the setup as such, and my experiment is ready to go. And once I do it, what I can do is I can deploy it. So I have some steps mentioned here how to deploy it, and everything is available within GitHub as such. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to first of all log in into my Google account using gcloud in it. So once I do it, I enable all the services which I require, for example, cloud build as well as artifact and so on. So these are all the services which I require, and typically what happens is I'm using cloud run function. So it is going to build it, it is going to deploy it into a artifact, which is a repository where things are stored, where my Docker build is stored, and then it is deployed on Cloud Run function. So this is what exactly it's happening, and this actually deploys the API endpoint which I am using, and it gives me all the environment variables. So basically, these, if you see, are all environment variables. So using gcloud run deploy, I deploy my main file, which is this file, and I essentially give all the uh, environment variables to it. So this is what happens behind the scene. Now let's walk through the code. So here is the code as such for this, and again, this is almost similar to my other YouTube video where I said how to run Cloud Run functions using Gemini. But essentially, what the difference here is, what we are trying to do is we are importing all the files, and we will be using Vellox library to run FastAPI. So that's what we are trying to do. So we have imported everything which is required, and we also imported some types, for example, content configuration and all, and this will be used for my content safety. So this is what I am going to use to detect if there is a harmful content or not. And I also defined some safety settings. So within safety settings, what I can define is what are the different categories, for example, dangerous, harassment, hate speech, and all. So these are all categories that are defined and pre-built available, and I'm going to detect all of these. And the other thing what we try to do is this is boilerplate code to just have fast API initiated as well as given a bearer token. So what we are doing here is we are checking whether bearer token comes here or not, and we have defined our bearer token within our environment variable. So if whenever we are invoking this API, if the bearer token matches with what is there in the environment variables, then we give it a go ahead. That's what exactly is happening here. And we are trying to summarize the text. So two API endpoints, as I said, one is health, and this is pretty simple. It is doing nothing, but the one which is trying to do things is summarize text. And within summarize text, what we are trying to do is we are generating the content, and we are passing the safety settings which we described here. So the safety settings which we described here, which talks about whether you have different categories detected or not, and also the threshold which is detected. For now, what we have done is we have put the threshold as the lowest, but there could be some more settings where you can configure how much severity you want. So that's exactly what we have done. So here what we are trying to do is, if the answer is generated properly and there is no harmful content, we send the text directly. Else what we try to do is, if we detect there is a harmful content as such, any sort of content, then we try to send the exact severity level to the user. Again, we can fabricate it, we can change it in a real system as such, but this is what we are trying to do. So to give an example, what's happening here is, where I'm having this content which contains violence and hate speech and so on, what we have done is we have detected, and here is where we have detected it. So if you see, it says there is a higher chance that you have the hate speech which is there, and we have the severity score which is mentioned as such. Similarly, dangerous content is also mentioned as such. If you see other things, they are negligible, but at least it has some hate speech as well as some dangerous content, so which it was able to detect with the probability score and so on. So this is the way to detect as such any sort of harmful content. And again, we are using responsible AI principles, so we definitely have to put all these guardrails into the production. So thanks teams, thanks for watching. The code will be available in the GitHub. Thanks.